All right, Decision 2022 continues. And of course, this is where you can trust the information and of course the coverage as far as the road towards the August 9th general polls is concerned. Throughout the day, of course, we'll be giving you updates as far as the preparation for the same. So you want to keep it NTV. But for now, of course, we continue with the conversation. And today we'll be focusing on the undecided voter, because with the August 9th polls literally hours away, official data shows that the number of young people registered as voters dropped after the 2017 general election by 5.27%. Well, this is despite the total number of voters rising by more than 12%. And while the right to vote is enshrined in the Constitution, some people have chosen not to participate, begging the question, why do some people vote in the elections and others don't? So that is what we'll be focusing on this morning. So if you want to contribute to the same, feel free to interact with us on our socials at NTV Kenya, at Lubembe_Winnie. I'll be looking at your feedback in just a moment. And of course, as far as the undecided voter, because like we said in the recently released polls, the number of undecided voters ranges between 6 to 9%. And of course, what sort of influence does this have as far as the general election? Who are the majority as far as the persons who are a little bit torn in between to vote or not to vote? Well, of course, we'll be having that conversation in just a moment. But first things first, take a look at what some of the Kenyans we spoke to had to say.
Kila mtu maisha imekuwa nzito kwa maisha yake, kwa sababu unapata hata pia mimi ni mtu mwendeshaji bodaboda hapa, ama watu wenye wanaendesha magari hapa kama matatu. Unapata kwamba mafuta vile ilipanda juu, wasafiri maabiria pia wao wanaanza kulalamika kwa sababu nauli pia na inaenda juu.
Hii ya mwaka tano hii ya handshake imeleta shida katika Kenya. Imeharibu sana. Moja ambayo wakati handshake ilipoingia, mafuta ilienda juu, unga ikaenda juu, gharama ya maisha ikaenda juu. Sijui kulikuwa kuna shida gani.
Kitu kinanisumbua mimi ni mambo ya security. Watu na wao wakiolela na ambaye si mzuri. Wakubwa yetu ile tumechagua hawataki kuja kutuangalia, wanatuwajia sita mingi sana. Na ile kitu tena wanatusumbua ni mambo ya chakula. Hakuna chakula, tunanunua kwa chakula kwa bei ghali, mafuta iko bei ghali, kila kitu maisha imekuwa mbaya sana.
Lack of involvement of the citizens in the decision making. That as much as we have done the elections, it does not mean that we wholly subject our powers, our sovereign power, to the leaders. But the leaders should be able to get back to us so that we can have a candid discussion of what is expected of them when it comes to the implementation of the development agenda.
I wish in the future our people will be able to look at what somebody has, the quality somebody has, the education. Because even in those villages, we are able to tell the people that can lead us and take us to where we want to go.
I will vote because I don't want other people to make decision on my behalf. Because if you don't vote, you leave others. They come and make decision, and you keep on lamenting. But we don't believe in lamentation, so I will vote.
My decision, I rely on my own judgment and knowledge and experience. Yeah, and the leaders that are standing for the election, some of them I know them because of what they have done for us.
Nashukuru sana kwa sababu tunaelekea election, na katika election tunaomba Mungu sana iwe na amani, na tunaamini Mungu itakuwa ni election ya amani. Katika kupiga kwetu kwa kura, lazima tuende tupige kura ili nchi yetu iwe na mabadiliko.
Decision not to vote may be a bit selfish. I don't think in any way it is a barrier to our journey to address Kenya's problems. Most of the candidates who are vying for these seats have been in office. It's only that they have been holding different positions for the longest time ever. But these people will come to us today and they tell us they want to address our problems. They want to give us solution. What is it that they have not been doing for the past very many years that they have been in office and they want to get a solution today? So I don't think that is realistic.
Sasa sisi huaga tunajishughulikia. Sasa uchumi iko juu sana. Sasa halafu tena ushinde ukienda kuvote. Hata nikiwezaona kazi hiyo wakati ya kuvote mimi naweza ingia kazi. Hakuna kitu inakujanga inaapia.
inaonekana kuna kitu hiyo ilikuja ne kama unaambiliwa, kuna vitu mingi tu anakuambililia, tukiingia tutawatetea, maisha ikuwe chini, mwananchi akae maisha mzuri, at least hizo vitu kama ni mwananchi, hata hakuna kitu yote huwa ana achieve zote. Sawa, nikakuwa tu nimeamua tu acha tu this time tu nikae hivyo nijiangalilie nione vile kuna.
Tumepitia ukame mingi sana, insecurity, teachers crisis, na hakuna leader yoyote amejitokeleza kusaidia watu.
Vote is uncertain because I'm not impressed with the aspirant manifesto because it's a rubber manifesto. It's not clearly stating and how it's going to benefit the common person.
All right, varied opinions over there from a section of Kenyans that we spoke to as far as participating in this year's general elections. And of course, a number of things have been, cited by some of those Kenyans. And of course, we just really want to understand. So then what next? Is there another way that, again, you can participate without necessarily voting? Is there another way that you can stay politically, active or involved really without necessarily voting? Because a number of people are saying, you know what, maybe not this time. And of course, my panel is here, ready for the conversation. Good morning, ladies. Good morning. How are we doing today? There's a bit of color going on, eh? It's like we all got the memo. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And of course, don't forget that we have a battery of journalists who are spread across the 47 counties, just to make sure that at the end of the day, we give you unbiased coverage as far as preparation for this year's general election is concerned. But let me introduce my panel just to hear what they have to say, and especially after listening to what a number of Kenyans are saying as far as participating or not participating, undecided, they're just in between. Well, Lydia Matthew, who's here with us, policy advisor, thank you so much for making time for us this morning, as well as Catherine Amai Mosi as well. Thank you very much, Catherine, for coming by this morning. Let me just start with you. What do you make of what the Kenyans are saying as far as whether to participate or not participate in this year's elections?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm actually grateful to listen to those voices talking either to participate or not to participate. I think it is good that the conversation is happening to encourage people to speak as to why or how they'd like to actually participate in political conversations or political participation. I think it's very important for that to happen and for people to speak about it, either those willing to participate or those who have decided to actually abstain from the process for their reasons.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And of course, I know you have a stand on the same. I'll come back to you. Thank you. To hear what you also have to say for yourself. But Lydia, again, what do you make of what Kenyans are saying, really, as far as to, this year's general election is concerned?
I think it's a bit disheartening to hear that there's still people who are having difficulties finding a reason to wake up in the morning and go and vote. I have some friends also, I have some family members myself who are saying, no, I'm not, why should I go and vote? These people, nothing changes. Every time we vote, they seem to be cut from the same cloth. I think it's Lindsay who was telling us that these people are, political cousins, as it were. And I think that is the reason fundamentally that is making people wonder, what is the choice really? I think there's somebody who wrote an article some time back, and they said that this is the first election that we are having that is about very little. It's about very little, and I think that is why Kenyans are having difficulty, because I think both camps have not convinced some Kenyans, not all, have not convinced some Kenyans that the agenda that they are perpetuating or the agenda that they are standing on is something that they are going to deliver. Just a last word to those people who are choosing not to vote. I understand and I respect their decision, because also not voting is a stand that you're taking. It is also a decision to not vote, but it would be better to vote. It would be better to vote, so that whatever happens in the future, at least you say you tried to vote for the right person or to vote the person of your choice. So I think they need to reconsider. just vote.
All right, and of course, a number of issues have been cited from, again, some of the Kenyans that we spoke to. And of course, like I said, we have a bunch of journalists spread across the 47 counties, and of course, we'll be linking with them as and when they are ready. But some of the things that some of the Kenyans cited is, number one, the economy. And of course, there's also the question of lack of involvement. Some feel we were not, involved much. Again, like you're saying, some of them are saying, I'm not convinced. I don't really understand why I should go vote, and yet you have not convinced me. The manifestos, yes, were released, we saw them, but some Kenyans are like, there's nothing really for me. Then there's also the question of trust, from Kenyans to the politicians. Some of them are saying, yes, we vote you in, but then again, unaenda alafu you completely forget about us. You come back 5 years later, that you want our vote. And like I said earlier on, of course, yes, in as much as the number of registered voters has increased, but still majority, and especially the young people who are saying we're not going to participate. So then when it comes to addressing such issues and even trusting the politicians, I mean, do you feel that so many people are holding strongly to this fact that we do not see any change, we do not trust some of these leaders that we're going to elect? So really, what's the point?
Again, thank you. There are various reasons as to why people are holding to that position of not voting. One is that it's obvious that the political class is very much united against the citizens. We've had a very tough economic situation in the last couple of years. It started longer, but the pandemic exacerbated the issue, and we got to a position where people are suffering economically. People have lost jobs, some have closed businesses, and when you look at the sort of structure that exists to help people get back on their feet, it's non-existent. And of course there should be a solution, because the citizens have a contract with the government. It's a social contract, and this social contract enables you as a citizen to actually ask the government for things in exchange. Correct, in exchange for the taxes we pay. And of course, then that it looks like the political class is removed from actually the needs of the everyday Kenyan. And I respect people who actually say that this is a protest, this is a protest against what's happening. I think it's a very strong message to the political class, and I hope that with time, then of course they'll listen and do things differently. And I also think that there's a situation where we are presented with the same choices. Like I started with my earlier point, where we have the same choice
over and over again.
Yeah, the political class is very much the same faces. They change parties. Like probably next Sunday we'll have a new political outfit, a new party. Okay, and it happens every time they do that, and it's all like then of course they'll come to us and they'll present themselves as different. Now I'm different, I'm trying to do something else. When you look at the history of the people, when you look at their performance, they're in government, they've been in power for a long time. So I think for me it's coming from a position where I feel like I've lost faith in the system, as it were, and I don't see like my vote matters, and of course I'll hold on to it precisely because of that.
All right. So you're among those people who are like, you know what, maybe not. Yes. Maybe not this year. Okay. All right. I'm listening to what Catherine is saying, and of course it's amongst more or less what so many Kenyans are saying, that I have lost faith in these leaders. Some of them have been in power for a very long time. They have been in the government for a very long time, and they come here and tell us this is what we'll do different once we get into power. But the question is, they have been there for a very long time, but little to no change has been witnessed. So then, I mean, can you blame them for holding that stance that I don't trust you, I have little faith or no faith at all in you, so I just choose to stay aside?
I think I understand the position, because people, especially who have had a really hard time in the last 5 years, people who really struggled to make a living, people who struggled to balance their lives, they feel so deeply that that the political class has nothing for them. and that the leaders are just in it for themselves, and there's nothing that they can hope for. And I think for me that's the sad part. That's the sad and also kind of dangerous, because when people begin to lose hope about a better tomorrow, then you're beginning to deconstruct the state. You're beginning to deconstruct this agreement between government and the people is beginning to collapse. And I think for me that would be a very dangerous signal if a significant portion of Kenyans abstain. Already we saw a lot of young people refuse to register as voters. They saw no incentive to get out of their, get away from their tablets and go and line up and register for votes. And you're beginning to see that trend is continuing into the voting. I'd be very cautious as a state actor or a person perhaps who is involved with governance. I'd be very concerned about that pattern and that trend and where it might lead us, because when people lack hope, then society can, it's very hard to keep society together. The other thing is that the politics of the last 5 years have resulted in a situation where people were not heard. First of all, there were very difficult times. Funding even to civil society really went down. So a lot of organizations, first of all, just laid off staff. I think even here in NTV, on Nation Media Group, a lot of people were laid off. And then civil society funding, a lot of funding went dry. So like 2 years there were no people. And then so people went back to the basics of, I need to find food before I can talk about this and the other. I need to first feed myself and feed my family and feed my loved ones. And that is part of the reason why there is that feeling of we are not part of anything, because we are not able to have our voices out here. The opposition, remember, became part of this blended,
morphed into the government.
Blended government, let's call it that.
Yes.
So there's a sense in which citizens feel like they've not been part of the conversation. The political class is just carrying on. I think BBI was accused of the same thing, and I think that's how it collapsed at the courts, because the court said, but you didn't carry the people along. You didn't do sufficient public participation. And that is the reason perhaps even the hustler movement emerged, or the hustler, people just feeling like there's a whole group of people on one side and the leaders on the other. So I totally understand. But I would just urge, I would still urge my friend
Catherine and the rest,
that even though you can look at the leaders, and perhaps especially at the top, at the presidential level, there's that sense of these are the same people, these are cousins cut from the same cloth, but there's also other positions. There's the MCA, for your ward. There's the MP for your constituency. There's the governor who will be in charge of all the resources that are going to the county. And for that reason, for the people who are especially proximate to you at that level, I would still see that perhaps there's still a reason to vote, because it's not just about the presidency, it's also about these other positions as well. And perhaps in there you could find a reason to get out and vote.
Thank you. And now I actually understand the need to sort of urge people who have decided not to vote, and to, of course, to appeal to that sort of vote for your reps, vote for the people beyond the president, clearly. And I think definitely it is a good call. However, Winnie, in terms of since we got independence, the country, every election cycle, people actually vote out underperforming representatives. About 50%. There was a study by the Elephant. I think it found something around 70%, but definitely over 50% people who are voted out for failing to deliver for the people. And of course, when I look at that, sort of statistics, it is quite telling, and I think it is very clear that the problem is not with the voter, that people are actually aware, people are socially and politically aware of when people are failing them, and they go in and they vote them out every election cycle. But then the same people, I mean, the people who now like replace them, they come in and they do the exact same thing. It is clear that this is a problem with the system, right? The political system in the country. The one that
structure is not sort of like structured according to a way that you would want to see it structured in terms of service delivery to the people. I'm curious to understand from your perspective, because again, you're holding strong your stand, which again, like Lydia says, we can respect it, we can understand the fact that yes, there's the aspect of faith and you'd not see any change, but as an individual, how have you been sort of like affected to an extent that you're like, you know what, actually no thanks. What is it that you expected? I know you're talking about the system, the structure that is not serving the people as to how it is supposed to serve the people. But again, on an individual level, paint that picture for us in terms of this is what I was expecting, this is what I wanted, but I'm not getting this, and this is why this is the position that I choose.
Okay, again, thanks for that. So on an individual level, I think when I look at what like has happened like since the pandemic started, and you find that the sort of like I had to close like a business, for instance, and this was because it was like in the hospitality, it was a hospitality business, and you have to sort of close down. We have the pandemic happened all over, but you find that there are countries that came in to sort of provide similar packages for the people, correct, to sort of bridge in from the sort of failure that was coming in, because it is like a failure. Of course, it is like a risk. It's a societal risk for something like that to like happen. And of course, they came in to sort of to bridge in and support and reduce the sort of like the mass risk. And of course, again, when I look at things like on a very like holistic level, I'm looking at there are very like policies that have been introduced by the current administration that I very much like disagree with.
Like what exactly?
Like I disagree with the competency-based curriculum in its totality. That's like probably a conversation for another day. So when I look at the current front runners, and of course even and I'm talking about this in the sense that education is like a function of the national government. So when I look at the way that topic has been like largely ignored, and I do not see a situation where we will have like a change like in the near future, because it's clear that everybody is united in actually like advancing that sort of structure, and then of course it's very easy to say, then of course then the member of parliament, they go and they make laws, and of course they're supposed to check the executive. That is actually that's their core function. But again, like for the last 10 years and of course even further, but again I want to like just the very recent history, the members of parliament have actually not been legislating properly. So they've been actually answering to the executive, and so I do not trust them to go there and actually represent me.
And bring the change, the kind of change that you want to see in all the sectors. Of course I'm going to come back to you for a response of the same, and then what does this say as far as then our political structure, our system, just to make sure that we earn that trust, of so many Kenyans who are saying we do not see anything, different. So really, why take part in the same? But we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, of course, the conversation continues. Stick with us. If you want to contribute again, on social media handles is at MTV Kenya, at Lubembe_Winnie. Tell us where you stand, and of course the reasons behind the same. But remember, like we said, we have a battery of journalists who are, across all the 47 counties. We'll be linking up with them again after the break. Stay with us. This is Decision 2022. More still to come.
Kenya Urban Roads Authority is a state agency mandated to manage, rehabilitate, develop, and maintain the national urban trunk roads. The authority has implemented the intelligent transport system aimed at decongesting cities through the use of intelligent cameras, hence enabling seamless connectivity at all road junctions.
The moment is here.
We are ready as the people of Kenya to make appropriate choices.
Hii uchaguzi itakuwa baina ya wafisadi na baina ya Wakenya ambao wanataka mabadiliko.
After months of grueling campaigns, debates and manifestos,
it's my humble opportunity to exercise your right to vote.
Tunakuja kuleta huo ukweli.
It is decision time.
We have election materials which are strategic materials.
We are all well prepared.
As Kenyans prepare to go to the polls, NTV is on hand to bring you unrivaled coverage of Kenya's biggest election yet. Starting Sunday, all the way until election day.
I feel so at one here. I should bring this Zen into my house.
When it comes to all things paint, we've got you covered. We know paint. Duracoat, ask the experts.
Do you need access to verified numbers of previous general elections and minute-by-minute updates on who is winning and who is losing? Nation Media got you. Simply log into elections.nation.africa from any device and get verified updates and data for your analysis. The platform is easy to navigate and absolutely free. Stay informed with accurate and verified elections data on elections.nation.africa, the most preferred elections data website you deserve.
His Excellency's legacy in sports is completely intact.
Throughout his tenure at the helm, President Kenyatta's name has been invoked on the sidelines at a number of sporting events.
The president always participated in sports events.
An avid sports enthusiast, President Uhuru may just go down as one of the sportiest presidents in Kenyan history.
Oh my God! Kenyan record is gone. The president likes it.
We were the first ones to put the proper health protocols in place to host major events.
This Monday, we take a look back on some of the most memorable sports achievements that have spawned under his legacy.
It's a coffee yogurt date?
It's not just a yogurt. It's Royal Coffee Yogurt.
Flow with the sweet taste of thick and smooth Royal Fresh coffee yogurt. Royal Fresh, the royal taste of freshness.
Now, all right. Welcome back. Of course, the conversation still continues even during the break. And of course, it's all about Decision 2022. And today it's all about the undecided voter. Of course, a number of reasons have been cited. But again, like we're talking about, a study that was released, between 6 and 9%, of voters remain undecided. And of course, the majority is actually mainly older females, which I'm trying to understand for some of the reasons why they're saying in mostly older females in the rural areas, and of course higher in the Western and Coast region. And of course there's also the question of voter apathy, especially amongst young people. So we want to hear from you as well. If you're watching us today, again, where do you stand as far as this year's general election is concerned? Are you participating or not? Tell us why. And of course, Lydia, I just want to hear your comments based on what Kathleen talked about, you know, and very valid concerns really, as far as to why is like why should we actually go out and vote, you know, and of course some of these concerns is what exactly so many Kenyans you know, share as well. So what do you have to say, and especially where does this put the government? What does this say about the government, the structure, our political leaders as well, and the entire leadership really, as far as trying to win you know, the Kenyans' confidence and faith that yes, the voting will be free and fair, but at the same time we will see the change that we need to see.
I believe I can after listening to her and I think a lot of other people, you get a sense that government interventions, for example, on COVID are not sufficient, or they did not reach the person for whom they were intended. And that's one of the challenges with COVID interventions across the world, that you found because of the situation at the time, it was difficult to collect the right data to really, for instance, there was a stimulus that was targeted at the hospitality industry specifically, hotels, people being able to get credit to reopen their businesses. But again, when you go back behind the stimulus and you really interrogate who really did receive this stimulus, then that's where issues start to come up. The money that was given to the poor, I think there was some stipend that was being paid. Again, when you go behind the data, you look at who received the money, you start seeing governance challenges. There's a bit of gaps here and there. A bit of governance challenges. And I think it was very difficult. We were just talking now for the civil society to speak out and bring out some of these issues, because they were also caught up in bread and butter. You know, the individuals, the human beings that were in those places were caught up in bread and butter things. But I want to say this, that it is really the responsibility of any government, of a government, to maintain public trust with its citizens. And one of the things that you do to make sure that happens is to make sure that you're building strong institutions, that your institutions keep to their mandate. And I think that's where we begin to see, you know, the erosion of the public trust. Really, we're not able to bring it back or reinforce it because our institutions are not able to stand on their own 2 feet. Parliament, like she was saying, you've had people like the majority leader, former majority leader Adan Duale, say that Parliament failed Kenyans because it is Parliament that occasioned the high debt, because they kept approving and approving the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling, I think they've acknowledged that they're the ones who have passed some of these bills that have resulted in very high cost of living by approving certain taxes on products. And so we need our institutions to work properly so that we can restore public trust. And so going forward, the administration that is going to come in, whichever it is, one of the greatest investments they have to put in is to restore public trust in the institutions of governance. The institutions that are supposed to do, for instance, investigations, the institutions that are supposed to do checks and balances, such as Parliament, Auditor General's office, the media needs to restore back its glory. All these institutions need to be rebuilt back. And then that way we might be able to restore hope in Kenyans. Otherwise, we might be headed at a very dark, you know, very, very dark place, which is not good. Because if Kenyans do not continue to have trust in government and trust in institutions, what you will have is that they will feel they might want to take matters into their own hands. And you do not want that. You want them to feel that they can speak through the media, that they can speak through their governance institution, that they can make a complaint to the ombudsman and the ombudsman makes a response, that they can petition Parliament and Parliament takes action, that they can write a letter to the Inspector General of Police and that inspector takes action. So there's a big task ahead to restore the glory of all our institutions, make them stand on their 2 feet, strengthen them so that Kenyans can restore their trust.
And of course, it's a question of then the independence of these institutions that are responsible, you know, in terms of, again, formulating and enforcing these policies, just to make sure that at the end of the day, the Kenyans feel that their voices are being heard. But then again, you talk to them and they'll tell you, listen, we can only go up to here. There's a place that we cannot cross. So then that leaves the question, so then why have these institutions in the first place if they do not have the independence to actually serve the people, given that this is the mandate that they have been given?
So I think it comes down to a leadership approach and the integrity in governance, the adherence to the rule of law, because if you respected the law is fairly clear about the independence of some of these institutions. There isn't supposed to be that level of compromise. The checks and balances are supposed to work. But when you sabotage those checks and balances, then you make these institutions not independent. And I like the proposal personally from I think it's the Kenya Kwanza team, where they're talking about really allowing, for instance, these institutions to have their own independence, and they're doing it in the sense of saying, you will not have to come to us for money. We will allow you to have what you call an accounting officer, because in government, an accounting officer is the beginning and the end of how well you're able to carry your own mandate. If you are able to receive your own money, account for your own money without reference to anybody, you can go to parliament directly, pitch for your budget, request for what you're requesting, advocate for your money, then receive it and then account for it, write your report to the Auditor General directly. That makes a lot of difference in terms of the independence of your operational independence. And so I like that proposal. About that institutional sort of that funding element and how funds flow. So I like that proposal. I also liked what I'm actually not a supporter of Kenya Kwanza, but I do like that proposal, and I also like what he said on the final rally. And this is what he said, that even though they will be, once the election is over and there's going to be that acceptance of the result, and he is happy to have a cup of tea with Raila Odinga, he is not going to have a handshake of the nature that was had between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, to the extent that it compromised the existence of the opposition. And so he said any kind of an arrangement or discussion that is going to contravene our constitutional democracy as it is organized currently is not something he's going to be a party to. And I think that is a good thing, that let us safeguard the space of the opposition, because it really helps in terms of having the people's voices. The people's voices heard.
Absolutely. All right, and of course, we're talking about then, and I think, Catherine, you mentioned this, that we don't really have to go, to the election or to the polls to vote in a leader so that we see change. There's so many other ways that we can go about just to make sure that, yes, we participate without necessarily participating, in the vote. And of course, we're having this discussion during the break where we said, participating is somewhat participating. It's just that Lydia talked about an aspect of it being ineffective. So then what are some of these tools that, in your opinion, sort of contribute in one way or the other towards the change that you want to see without necessarily going to the polls?
All right. So actually, there are various tools to participate in the socio-political space without necessarily casting a vote. One, we have petitions. You can file a petition with the court to voice your either your needs, or dissatisfaction, correct. So we have that as an option. Number two, we have a citizen can actually write letters to their representatives and of course ask for certain things to be done. It doesn't happen often here, but it's like very much done elsewhere. It's in very vibrant democracies. Citizens embrace their legislators and they're able to write to them, and of course voice, you remember, if I could give an example,
and action is taken.
Correct. Remember, some years back, and of course it happens a lot, but there's one example. Some years back in the United States, there was a time when maybe Congress was going to vote for a particular issue. I don't quite remember, but if you remember correctly, Americans would tell each other, write to your representatives right now and tell them that you do not want this bill to go through. And of course, Americans would write, and of course, then Congress would converge, and of course, then the bills would not go through as designed. So this is something that is people should embrace as a tool. Another thing is like protests are not bad things, and this is like a right, and your right to go out and to hold a banner and to communicate to your state, to your reps. I think these are things that should be happening a lot more, and my point is that we should not wait for 5 years to say that this is the most consequential decision I can make as a citizen, and therefore I can actually do this. And there's also the issue of like voicing your opinions through the media about the specific things that actually matter to you, and I think that is also a place that the media can come in, and I'm so glad for Lydia for that proposal that the media actually now should be more independent, and as well as the civil society, because that one as well gives people an opportunity to actually voice their concerns, and of course the media will sort of amplify that. So there are so many other tools that people can participate, and they are even more effective most of the times than
Let's actually ask Lydia the effectiveness of the same. I mean, do you feel we're there yet? And especially when it comes to the letters, I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of people say, I cannot even get to my MCA. But I cannot reach him. So this is me just trying to think, writing a letter, when will it get to, for example, your MCA or your member of parliament or your woman representative, for example, or your governor, just to say, I'm not happy with this and this is what we want to see. Can we have a conversation? How effective are some of those tools?
It can be very effective.
All right.
For instance, a letter, if you were, like for instance, I can tell you in government, if you were to write a letter to an institution, say to a CEO or a chairperson or a minister or a PS, there is always that sort of accountability that this document was written to you. Was there a response? Did somebody act on it? A minister will receive your letter and mark it to whichever responsible agency. For instance, if you're writing to the Minister for Interior, for example, and there's an issue to do with a particular department, say disaster management or somebody, they're going to mark that letter to that person. And because of that, that person is going to have to provide an explanation to the minister, and then the minister then can respond. So usually there's that sort of like account. People don't know, they don't have a lot of faith in letter writing, but if you do write a letter and write it to the duty bearer, especially in the executive, it is highly likely to get the attention that it deserves. It's a legitimate concern. Then on these other issues of petitions and organizing things, this is what I like to tell people. These offices sometimes can be deaf and blind to individuals, but not to organize groups. So you want to communicate to the office as a, so that you're not telling government, me, I have this problem, me as a person. You're saying us as a community that lives here, or as a people that do this and that, we have encountered these challenges, and these are the solutions that we would like for you to consider providing for us. So I like to tell people, if you can put yourself together, find people with a similar experience as the one that you want to bring up, and then go to the government or go to the office with that kind of coming together and saying, we are 100 people, look, if you're 100 people, and I'm saying, we'll listen to you. You understand? As opposed to you saying, try to be together, organize yourselves into a group, and then present whatever the issue is. The other thing is, there's this thing that is in the Constitution that nobody uses. It's called the recall clause. If you're able to organize certain people within the community, you really have a difficulty with your MP, or you have a difficulty with your MCA, you can actually institute the recall clause, where you're saying, you know what, we're not going to wait for 5 years to vote you out. You're completely terrible. So we are going to initiate the process of recalling you. And there's a process of recall. I know Parliament made it extremely difficult.
Yes, that's why I wanted to come in.
Parliament has made it, because it was about them. But you can try, and that will get the attention of whoever it is that you're trying to recall. They're going to say, okay, why do you want to recall me? It's like when you want to impeach a governor of a particular reason. They're going to be like, why do you want to impeach me? And then they'll be like, okay, sir, I hear what your concern is. They might pay extra attention to whatever issue it is that you're having a problem with. So some of these instruments, even though you will not be effective, you will not be completely successful, for example, to instituting an impeachment, or you will not be completely successful in executing a recall. By taking that action, initiating that action, you will attract the attention of this person, and they might be able to address whatever the concern is.
And of course, Catherine also mentioned something that, again, we do not really have to wait until 5 years for us to go and, elect, for example, the leaders that we sort of like have faith in. How practical is this? Because now that means a complete overhaul
of the whole electoral system. I do not think that expecting, like, for instance, changing elections, saying that let's vote let's have a change 2.5 years or 3 years. I think it will be very, very disruptive. Already, for some of us, we feel as though 5 years is too short a time to really be able to do much. And there's some people who think actually the term should be 7 years, so that the policy, because usually the first year you're really just muddling through trying to streamline your manifesto with government plans.
About the 100 days.
It's really difficult. So you begin to have traction from the second year. So really proper term, you're talking about 3 years, 3.5, because now again the final period, your people are already like, okay, what's next? Who's coming in next? So
people start to serve like a life.
You can imagine if you narrow down to 3 years, lose the first year, you only have 1.5 years, because the last half year, everybody's like, what's next? So it's not, I wouldn't advocate for it, because it's just that much more difficult to do the nuts and bolts that it takes to actually implement programs, and the cycles of governance and the cycles of project implementation would be highly, highly disrupted. I think 5 years really should be the minimum. If we can even do it longer, well and good, but I think these instruments that we have in the Constitution need to be activated somehow. If we can amend maybe the recall, we can have a friendly way of trying to hold people accountable. The media needs to be a lot more robust. We need figure out what they have. The media needs to have to introspect after this election. They will really have to introspect. There's things that they have not done right, and I believe that they know that. And going forward, I know they will introspect and then course correct, because we cannot go on this way for a lot so much. But something, we need some sense of balance. We need to get back trust. Because now Kenyans are not people are literally getting the news off of social media, or Hustler National Intelligence Bureau, or I don't know which blogger, and if you continue in this path, and those become the more trusted sources of news, I think we need to. It's better that we have institutions that media groups such as the Nation Media Group, the Standard Media Group, really restore faith in Kenyans on neutrality and objectivity, and really go the extra mile in asking hard questions of leaders that are supposed to be held to account.
All right. And of course, that is all we do right here at Nation Media Group. Very quickly, something else that was also cited among so many other people, that is why they will not be participating in this year's general election, is the question of IDs. And of course, our very own signature Zima is in Bungoma and says there's a last-minute dash to collect IDs, and especially at the Bungoma Huduma Center. So of course, we'll be joining Signature Zima, our very own Signature Zima, in just a moment. But very quickly then, in terms of fine, these tools, this is some of the things that you, one way or the other see as a way of you participating, in this.
I've used some of them, yes.
You have used some of them, all right, okay. What worked? What did not work?
After the 2017 election, I was part of a group of women who actually took the petition to the then CJ to actually honor the 2/3 gender principle. So I believe that these are tools that are at our disposal. I use some of these tools myself, and I believe that they should be embraced.
The change that you wanted to see at that time, was it as effective as you had hoped?
Again, no, it was not as effective as I'd hoped, but I do believe that there's power in numbers. I believe that more people should actually be more like engaged that way, rather than saying that that voting is the only way you can participate as a citizen. So I believe that more people should actually like embrace that as a philosophy, like on a philosophical level, and say that this is actually a path we can consider. And of course, and of course also embrace that and actually practically like try to do that. Yes, yes.
All right. But then again, from these institutions, what are some of the expectations that you have?
Yes.
Because we've seen a lot of stigma as well, and especially, you know, towards people who say, I will not be participating because of one, two, or three reasons.
Yes.
Some have been cited not to be informed.
Yes.
Others, again, have been cited to be rebellious. So there's a bit of stigma that sometimes, you know, someone voicing their stand and their opinion in terms of this is why I'm holding my position becomes even a challenge, because one way or the other it's like protesting, you know, and saying I am not happy with the services, and that is why I choose to hold this stand. So then from your standpoint, what is it that you need to see, you know, so that it can, you know, restore your faith in the institution, in the leadership, and of course the governance as well?
Okay, I think you've. I'll sort of answer the question and like in two parts.
Right.
I believe that there's a lot of stigma the way you've put it. People do not like seeing people who actually say that they won't vote. It's looked at as ignorance. It's perceived as like being entitled. Sometimes people say, oh, that is what middle class entitlement. And of course, and of course, for the longest time, it was always perceived as something that that people who are uneducated do. That there's the uneducated group in the society are the ones who actually don't see like the importance of governance, like governance. Correct. And of course, so I'm here to sort of like debunk that it is not true. There are so many faces to that sort of constituency of people who actually are saying that they won't vote, and so I'm appealing to people and to Kenyans, and of course and especially to the leadership, the political class, to actually listen to people and to actually understand why somebody might be making this decision, and ask yourself, have I done everything in my power to actually like reach this person, and it's not like to individually reach that person, and to ask yourself how many others are like this person. So what I would like to see is that the sort of engagement by the political class, and of course as well as people who actually are willing to participate in terms of the specific action that is voting, to also listen to these alternative, and if they are in a position to understand and to sort of give the story nuance, and to look at that in sort of with all its faces. I'd be very happy to see that.
Happen. All right, and of course, again, like we said, literally counting hours, you know, to the poll
tomorrow. Yes. So I'm terrified about the potential lines. I'm just like, oh my God. What are in 2017? Yes. Oh, I was up at 4 a.m. and by the time I got to the polling station, it was a long queue.
Maybe like wake up at midnight.
I mean, it's good that you brought up the issue of lines. And I think I don't know how like Lydia, you can help me here. We see like in other countries there's the early voters. How is it that we can sort of like incorporate that into our systems and have people who are disabled, right?
Usually, I mean, they're given priority. Again, and especially when they get to the polling centers, again, pregnant women, they're special group.
But sometimes your disability is not like that obvious to the people, because I mean, the persons living with disability is like it's a spectrum. And of course, maybe somebody has high blood pressure. How can they like prove to the presiding officer that I need preference, right?
Maybe that's a conversation for another day. We literally have to end. Especially in the next 30 seconds, I'm just going to give you 10 seconds to just, then what will it take to really convince, you know, people who are saying, I really don't know if I want to participate in this, and bear in mind, we literally have hours to go into the poll. Some are still rushing to collect their IDs as well, which is one of the things.
Which is also a good thing.
Yeah.
I'll say that we should always be hopeful. We should always be hopeful for a better tomorrow.
Yeah.
And for that reason, just get up and do it for yourself. You know, step out of your house, go cast a vote for whatever little hope you might have for this country, whatever little hope you have for your own life, for your community. Step out and go cast a vote for whoever you wish to vote for.
Right, for that
and that way you will keep some hope alive in you about the country that you want.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Catherine, literally 5 seconds. What would you say?
I'm appealing to the people who are in charge of policy to listen to Kenyans and to actually accommodate these alternative views and do something about it to make lives better
for everyone. Thank you very much, Catherine Amai, Mosi, as well as Lydia Mathia. We say thank you very much, Lydia, for coming by today. A number of you are saying there's no hope at the ballot, same monkeys, different trees. One person also says, you know, it's what we call politics. With politics, you'll find out when we're voting friends, but in different political parties. So we do it for the nation, not for the candidates. Let Kenyans vote for their nation to grow and try to see someone who is competent. A number of these, and of course the conversation still continues on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya, at Lubeme_Winnie. But ladies, thank you so much for again sparing your time this morning to come and talk to us about this very important part, you know, and that is the undecided voter. So the ball is in your court. Literally hours down before decision 2022 continues right here on NTV. Do not go away. In the next hour, Muzi 2022 will be coming up. But for now, God bless. Have yourselves a lovely day ahead, and remember to stay safe even as we head into the polls. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye for now.